Welcome to our CFP exam prep discussion on margin requirements. Today, we're diving deep into a crucial concept that often appears on the exam and frequently trips up test takers. Let's break down margin requirements, specifically focusing on initial margin and maintenance margin in securities trading. When you're trading on margin, you're essentially borrowing money from your broker to purchase securities. Think of it as taking out a loan to buy stocks, but your securities serve as collateral. Initial margin is the minimum amount of equity you need to put up when opening a margin position. Currently, Regulation T sets this at 50% of the purchase price. Here's a practical example. If you want to buy $10,000 worth of stock on margin, you'll need to deposit at least $5,000 of your own money, and you can borrow the remaining $5,000 from your broker. Now, maintenance margin is where many exam candidates get confused. This is the minimum amount of equity you must maintain in your account after the initial purchase. The maintenance margin requirement is typically 25%, though some brokers might require more. Let's continue with our example. If your $10,000 stock position drops to $8,000, you need to maintain at least $2,000 in equity to avoid a margin call. A common mistake students make on the exam is confusing the percentages. Remember, initial margin is 50%, maintenance margin is 25%. These numbers are different for a reason. The higher initial requirement provides a cushion against losses, while the lower maintenance requirement gives some flexibility as the market moves. Here's where test takers often stumble. The exam might present a scenario where they need to calculate when a margin call occurs. Let's walk through this. Suppose you buy $20,000 worth of stock with $10,000 down and $10,000 borrowed. If the stock value drops to $16,000, you still owe the broker $10,000. Your equity is now $6,000. $16,000 minus $10,000 debt. The maintenance requirement would be $4,000, 25% of $16,000, so you're still safe. But if the stock drops to $13,333, your equity would be $3,333, exactly equal to the maintenance requirement of 25%. Any further decline would trigger a margin call. Another crucial point that appears on the exam is understanding how to meet a margin call. You have three options. You can deposit additional cash, deposit additional securities, or sell some of your margin securities. The exam might ask you to calculate how much needs to be deposited or sold to meet the call. Be particularly careful with questions involving long positions versus short positions. The maintenance requirements work differently for short sales, and this distinction often appears as a trick question on the exam. While the maintenance requirement for long positions is based on the current market value, for short positions, it's based on the higher of either the initial margin requirement or the current market value. Remember to pay attention to the specific numbers given in exam questions. Sometimes they'll use different maintenance margin requirements than the standard 25%. Always use the numbers provided in the question, not the standard numbers you've memorized. Practice calculating these scenarios repeatedly until they become second nature. The exam loves to test this concept because it combines both straightforward memorization and practical application. Keep these distinctions clear in your mind, and you'll be well prepared for any margin requirement questions that come your way.